Whoa. Hold on. I know, look, listen, I know some of you are kind of angry about the title and thumbnail, but I promise it's all going to make sense at some point. You see, in my personal opinion, the PlayStation 5 Pro is a waste of sand. All right. Listen, don't get mad. Don't start slamming away on comment sections. Hear me out here, okay? Because what we're seeing right now isn't the PS5 Pro trying to replace what the original PS5 was in terms of price and performance. What we're seeing now instead is consoles starting to creep up into the cost of what a PC would be in that sort of territory, near that $1,000 mark. When you look at buying the actual stand for the console itself, and then having to go ahead and buy the disc drive, because if you're going to go ahead and support the developers, you're going to get a physical disc copy. So in reality, you're spending upwards of $800, not to mention the always online access fee, which of course is only on console. Now you're looking at what, $80 a year on top of that over the next 4 years that you've already spent, the $320. So you're already spending well into the $1,000 territory mark simply by just buying a PS5 Pro, having online access for the next 4 years, and getting the disc drive and the stand. So when I tell you it's a waste of sand, it's not because I hate PlayStation. It's because honestly, the PS5 Pro is in fact on its own an actual scam. And we're just talking about the pricing right now. In my personal opinion, the original PS5 should be right now, with the disc, mind you, at what, $399 at the most right now? And then of course the PS5 Pro should be slotting in right above that at the $499 spot, like we had with the PS4 and the PS4 Pro. But we're not getting that right now, are we? No, we're getting an increase in console costs, which you already had happen with PlayStation. Way to go, guys. And then on top of that, a more enthusiast platform on top, with an even higher increase in cost to boot. So we're just talking about price right now. We haven't even gotten to the actual performance of what's actually been happening. So yeah, it's not looking really great for the PS5 Pro, especially seeing how sales of the PS5 Pro have started to fall behind what the PS4 Pro was. What? Now, I know there's going to be people saying like, oh, but Alex, when GTA 6 comes out, you gotta buy a Pro for that. Wow! I don't know what to tell you, but the thing is, the PS5 Pro has the exact same CPU as the PS5. There are things called CPU bottlenecks that people don't really understand what happens when you have a CPU bottleneck in a machine. It doesn't matter how good your GPU is. If your CPU does not compute the frames being sent by the GPU fast enough, you don't get the frame rate. That's the easiest way I can put it. And on top of that, there are incredibly heavy CPU dependent games. Am I making the bet that GTA 6 will be 30 FPS? Honestly, I have no idea what they're going to do. But with Rockstar's track record, you can probably make a safe bet that it'll be 30 FPS for GTA 6, even on the Pro. If they get it to 60, that'll be kind of impressive. But my guess, honestly, on a personal note, is it'll more than likely be some sort of like VRR sort of implementation with around the 40 FPS mark. So that's my guess. But even by my guess, that may in fact be a stretch, because it's taken a few generations for even GTA 5 to hit 60 FPS on the actual consoles now. And even then, most PC gamers will just wait the year to play GTA 6 on their PC. Some people don't even like GTA. So what's causing me to think this about the PS5 Pro? Well, it turns out AMD launched a brand new set of GPUs, the 9070 and 9070 XT, which honestly are fantastic if they weren't sitting by it with a paper launch, because unless you have a Micro Center near you, you didn't get a GPU. Thanks, Gamers Nexus. But with those new GPUs comes new technology for FSR 4, which honestly is great, because that means AMD finally let go of their archaic notion of not having to use machine learning to help them use an upscaler, and FSR can finally stop looking like an actual blurry mess where I smear Vaseline across my eyeballs when I'm playing a video game. But there's a reason why I bring up AMD, the 90 series cards, and also FSR 4, because the fact that AMD and PlayStation worked together for Project Amethyst to then help create FSR 4. The problem, though, is PSSR, or PISR, by what we see online, does not use the same sort of actual hardware that is being used for FSR 4. In fact, it uses something totally different. And here is in fact what Mark Cerny said about FSR 4 technology and PSSR and PS5 Pro. In the interview, Mark Cerny states this: the neural network and training recipe in FSR 4's upscaler are the first results of the Amethyst collaboration, and the results are excellent. It's a more advanced approach that can exceed the crispness of PSSR. I'm very proud of the work of the joint team. And honestly, Mark Cerny did a great thing working with AMD, because now AMD's FSR 4 is a true competitor to DLSS. And honestly, they need it. But the problem though is, for me specifically, I hate upscaling. I think it's a crutch. In fact, developers use it as a crutch more so than they actually use it for helping games become even more optimized or giving more headroom to older graphics cards. Developers now are in fact using things like FSR and FrameGen and DLSS not to make a game run even better than it could before on older hardware, but to try and go ahead and make you pay X amount of money, usually $1,000 plus for a GPU, to finally have a game run at 60 FPS at what they would consider to be 4K, because they want to add things like ray tracing and all the other garbage that comes into actual video games. Rather than providing good rasterization, good quality experience, they're doing that instead. We have to have games now that require ray tracing, that graphics cards need to have ray tracing in order to actually play the game instead of having it as an option. The thing with PC games is it should always have been an option and not a requirement. I'm looking at you, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Even though that game is incredibly well optimized, I would have liked it to have that option because I would like to play it on my Steam Deck at some point. Would be nice. But I'm not the only one that feels this way, because one of my favorite VTubers, Pippa, is a very angry bunny.
I hate modern computers, and people will complain, Pippa boomer, Pippa's a stupid boomer, get with the times, old man. Why do you want to settle for worse products when things were perfectly fine 10 years ago? What is wrong with you? Why are you so brainwashed? Why are you so happy to sit in the cuck chair while they make computers cost more and perform worse? You are brain dead. You are so stupid. You have been conned by the idea that every computer should come overclocked by default with a ton of bloatware that supposedly make it run better, but all this is optimized for is the little 11-year-old that want to play GTA 5 with ray tracing and fancy ass graphics. And if you want to do literally anything else, then go yourselves, because AAA gaming is in bed with these computer hardware companies, and all they want to do is vigorously jerk each other off and make the same dog products with updated RGB and more software. I don't like modern hardware.
Yes, I know I'm doing the whole, but Alex, you're a boomer kind of a thing, but there's a reason why I bring this up, and that reason simply is money. You see, these developers, game companies, graphics card manufacturers, AMD, Nvidia, and etc. cannot simply go ahead and increase the amount of rasterization that is happening in their games willy-nilly, because the power consumption would be honestly astronomical. So what they have to do then, instead of actually selling you a better GPU, they'll just sell you the features around the GPU that you kind of could do before, but that'll make the actual GPU run quote-unquote better. So instead of actually providing you with a better rasterization or the ability to have more frame rate, they'll give you fake generated frames by AI to make you feel like you have a better experience overall. Or they'll go ahead and they'll reduce the resolution like sub HD levels to then go ahead and upscale it through machine learning to make it look better, even though it doesn't look as good as native resolution can, even though you spent $2,000 on a GPU that still can't do it, even though they said that they could. You see where I'm getting at this? The article also states this: last week, AMD released its new wave of graphics hardware developed around the new RDNA 4 architecture. Machine learning performance is dramatically increased, opening the door to FSR 4, a brand new machine learning based upscaler that delivers excellent quality comparable to NVIDIA's DLSS. Just after launch, AMD revealed that it was co-developed in association with Sony as part of its Project Amethyst initiative, and its interview with Digital Foundry, PlayStation lead system architect Mark Cerny says that our target is to have something very similar to FSR 4's upscaler available on the PS5 Pro for 2026 titles as the next evolution of PSSR. That's really interesting because this is a part that people are really getting confused on, and we've seen even people who I don't have a lot of love for say that exact same thing. I'm looking at you, Tom Warren. PlayStation is not going to be backporting FSR 4 into PSSR or PS5 Pro. What they're going to be doing is using the information that AMD has with their combination of working together through Project Amethyst to make PSSR even better on the PS5 Pro, which honestly is great. However, like I brought up before in the video, the problem with the PS5 Pro is the price is $700. That's not too much. I don't know where I became Italian from, but there it is. And another factor for this as well shows two things for me specifically. One, if they're going to be putting new titles with PSSR, I guess version 2 in 2026, that could mean this generation would probably last a bit longer than we're all kind of expecting. Could this be another 10-year gen? I'm not entirely sure, honestly, but I will say this, the graphical leap between each gen has been getting smaller and smaller ever still. And having to use things like upscalers to increase visual fidelity in terms of adding ray tracing or things like nanite or anything else along that nature to try and go ahead and make it more visually attractive, even though it's getting harder to differentiate between those specific things, really goes to show like, what are you actually paying for? Are you paying for a system that should have been $500 from the actual start, that should have already had these kind of features in it already? It should have already been running games at 60 FPS with a better fidelity for $500 back in 2020? Because in my opinion, that's what it should have been from the very beginning. Instead, you're having to spend $700 on top of a console you already bought for $500 to go ahead and have the experience you were supposed to get from the very beginning, but you're not getting until later on. Does that track? Does that make sense? Are you guys picking up what I'm putting down? You catching what I'm throwing? You're reading what I'm writing? You're drinking what I'm serving? So in the article, Mark Cerny also says this: RDNA 4 and the hardware in the PS5 Pro are completely separate designs, which is why I speak in terms of reimplementation on PS5 Pro when I talk about the new upscaling network used in FSR 4. I'm definitely looking forward to a future with co-developed hardware features for machine learning that will dramatically increase interoperability. So that right there is a big takeaway in all of this. PSSR, or the Pisser, and FSR 4, like Mark Cerny said, are vastly different in their design. They're not going to be the exact same, even though they've both worked together with Project Amethyst to make FSR 4, even though they've done things together in that space. They're not going to be able to go ahead and just backport FSR 4 into the PS5 Pro. They had to create their own upscaler with the Pisser to go ahead and give you an ability to say, hey, look, here's a reason to buy our product. Here's what we're giving you. We're giving you a decent GPU boost, the same CPU, but hey, don't worry. Here we're going to go ahead and give you an AI upscaler to make the game look better, even though we know the hardware itself can't do it on its own. And that goes right back to what I said before. The problem with GPU manufacturing, the problem with games, the problem with a lot of the things happening right now in terms of graphics and video games is the fact that they are not selling you a better system overall. They're selling you the features that are part of that system rather than just having a better system in general. If you look back just over time, from 8-bit to 16-bit, 16-bit to 32, 32 to 64, you can see giant graphical leaps between each one. Now, if you look at something like a PS4 game and a PS5 game, very rarely are you going to see true differences between them. Hell, most of the PS5 library is in fact just games that were on the PS4 put to the PS5, and it's gotten so bad now that even during the whole we're remastering Days Gone, it's difficult to see the actual differences between both games side by side. I can't tell you how many people were looking at what the PS5 Pro is doing on its initial release and seeing oh, it's the same.
For this, my favorite is the parade scene from Ratchet & Clank. Distant details are much clearer.
Oh yeah, the banner. No? Shoot, what am I looking at here? The building on the right has more windows? No? Are there more polygons?
And here we can see Marvel's Spider-Man 2 is noticeably higher resolution throughout the scene.
Okay, now they're just fucking with me. What am I supposed to look at the trees? Oh, you know what? The leaves look sharp. Oh no, that's the original PS5. What am I looking at here?
The thing is, though, to the regular gamer, the Joe Schmo, the thing everybody wants to try and market all the time to, the casual, there isn't that big of a difference for them visually to say, oh, that's a Pro and that's not. You could say that back in the day for the PS4 and the PS4 Pro because 4K TVs were being really big and the checkerboard upscale rendering looked a lot better than what we had back then. But even then now, it's getting to the point where we're seeing massive diminishing returns, where the only way things look good is when Digital Foundry goes ahead, exports all the footage, and then zooms in in 400% to show you the little jaggies on one corner of a connected bush or whatever next to the other corner of a connected bush, and they both look like shit. I mean, speaking of Digital Foundry, I'm not the only one that thinks that. They said it themselves.
Even we've kind of puzzled, like, how do you sell this to a customer? It really almost targets like the type of person that is keeping track of PC GPU numbers and such, but just maybe wants to be on a console, right? Because that fundamentally the upgrades, they're, to us they're big enough, but I feel like the average consumer maybe just isn't going to appreciate or care about that stuff. And in some cases the differences are so small that you really have to like capture the footage, take it into Premiere, and kind of, you know, it's hard to appreciate, like, is this actually that much better? Is it even really better at all? And sometimes it's actually worse, thanks to PSSR having some issues.
I mean, when you have the guy who does the zoom ins on most of their actual content for games, that's pretty jarring to hear, especially from someone like him. And these guys are, in fact, the pixel counters. And I know Iconair is going to be like, I don't trust Digital Foundry. Yeah, one day PlayStation fanboys love that site, the next day they hate them. It all depends whether or not it fits their narrative. But either way, though, here's also what Mark Cerny had to say. FSR 4 and the next evolution of PSSR are a paradigm for our future. Going forward, we expect to have our own implementations of each of the algorithms developed through the collaboration, says Cerny, and there may be slight tweaks to them in our world, as technical targets for console game development and PC game development tend to be slightly different. For example, as I said in the PS5 Pro technical video in December, 60 frames per second gaming is very important in the console world, but the PC world doesn't quite think about frame rate in the same way. I had to read over this a couple of times because I couldn't really understand what Cerny meant. And the thing is, in the PC world, the way we think about frames is 60 FPS is the minimum. It's the minimum. Like, that's like what your game should be at all the time. And then it should go up from there, like 144, 240. Like that. That's the different way. You guys are getting to the minimum in the console space by spending $700 on a box that needs to use all these other tools and features that PC gamers use on the side end to completely outpace that in general. So I don't know what Mark Cerny tries to mean when he says the PC world doesn't quite think about it and the frame rate the same way, because, we think about frame rate, but we think about it as 60, that's cute. Hello? When you play Counter-Strike Global Offensive, I'm looking for 300 frame rates plus. When I play Valorant, I'm looking for 300 frame rates plus. When I'm playing any video game on my 7900 XT with a 7700X, I'm looking for 144 FPS plus. I'm not looking for 60. I'm in a whole other ballpark, in a whole other world, in a whole other stratosphere, galaxy, universe of what consoles are doing right now. So I don't know what Mark Cerny means by that. Could that be what he means? Because if that's what he means, y'all are going to be paying a lot more than $700 for consoles moving forward. And that's my problem with this entire thing right now. Not only do I feel like the generation is going to be longer than we actually expect, but at the same token, generations moving forward, the incremental difference in visuals are going to be smaller and smaller still. And on top of that, not only are the visual increments going to be smaller and smaller, the actual cost of what consoles are going to be moving forward in the future are going to be greater and greater. Now is the time consoles should be $399. I'm going to be real. Consoles should be $400. Series X, $400. Series S, $199. Like PS5, $399. Like, it should be lowered in price. But we're not seeing that. We're seeing consoles increase in price. And it's getting even worse still. Consoles aren't being sold at a loss anymore. To have a loss leader, to be a box in home, to sell more software so you can go ahead and make actual money. Now they're trying to make consoles have an actual return, which of course puts the burden onto the consumer and makes things worse for you as an actual consumer, because when the product that comes out that actually does what they were supposed to do from the very beginning, that's going to cost even more money still. As you get closer to $800, $900, or even $1,000 for a console, you're already encroaching far into PC territory. At that moment in time, you might as well just get a PC if you're going to be spending that much money over time with a console generation. And the way things are going in gaming, I could honestly see people skipping generations of consoles simply because of the fact that it's going to be costing too much money, like how people skip generations of GPUs. When you're looking at consoles costing $700, $800, maybe even $900 or $1,000 in the future, and everything else is just being remastered from the previous gen to the next gen, people won't be able to afford that. And you're losing the actual biggest argument of wanting to be in console gaming in the first place: the affordability and the ease of use. When you're upgrading every 3 years to a pro version of a console to get a new generation of a console, then have an upgrade every 3 years after that, you're basically on a new GPU cycle. And that's literally doing the thing you don't want to do with consoles. You're becoming PCs. That's a whole argument you guys have made for the longest time. But that's what you're doing. So you know what? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Do you think it's going the same way I'm going, where consoles are going to be just way too expensive, GPUs are going to be an actual scam? Well, they already are. And of course, we're not going to really be enjoying gaming like we used to do, like we had back in the day where we saw a giant graphical leap over and over again. So I definitely want to hear what you guys have to say. If you guys want to see more of this kind of content, though, more PC port reviews, gaming news, Steam Deck videos, fanboy content, my hot takes in the gaming industry, and live streams every Saturday night, 8:45 p.m. Eastern, subscribe to the channel. We're on our way to 80,000 subs, and I just want to say thank you guys so very much. If you want Discord access and most during live streams, though, become a YouTube member. It's as low as $1. If you don't want to spend the buck, don't sweat it. Saturday nights, 8:45 p.m. Eastern. It's a hell of a show. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. With all that being said, though, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you have a great one, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace!